think it is morning here. God, I'm so discombobulated because we were shooting all day yesterday in this kind of derelict building, suitably creepy. And I'm going in there to shoot again today. So it's going well, really exciting. It's a great episode we're shooting at the moment. So yeah, today I will mostly be trying to kill Nightwing.
What is up, fellow Titans? Welcome back to a brand new Titans news roundup video. Today we've got a little bit to talk about, starting with Joseph Morgan's Brother Blood teasers. As always, he keeps the fandom teased for that character. Some Ryan Potter Beast Boy news, which was pretty interesting to find out about. Titans going to Bloodhaven, and I'm going to chuck a couple of theories in there. Also, we have a Tim Drake Robin suit tease, kind of, and I believe an episode still, and probably something else that I'm forgetting about. It's been a little while since I did a Titans Season 4 news update video. Just been waiting for like a little bit of a collection of stuff to talk about. So this is your latest dose of news going into the next season of Titans. If you go on to enjoy this video, show your support by hitting the like button. I always appreciate that. And if you're brand new here, definitely subscribe for more news updates, breakdowns as of when we get more promo material, of course, and reviews when Season 4 finally drops. So to start off the Brother Blood Sebastian Sanger teases, the latest we've got is a new teaser from Joseph Morgan that he posted to his Instagram of Sebastian, and actually saying early Sebastian before everything changed, hashtag DC Titans. So this is just something fresh to start us off with. This is obviously, as he stated, an early version of Sebastian. We know he goes on quite the villainous arc this season. It's an origin story from Sebastian Sanger becoming more and more Brother Blood along the way, even though it's kind of deeply rooted in there from the infancy of this season. And, you know, just looking at this photo, he looks very prim and proper. I kind of feel like, oh man, like this nice looking guy right here is gonna turn dark and diabolical, granted, for an ambition that he feels will be helpful in changing the world, probably. We've had a whole range of Sebastian Sanger photos up until this date. Maybe I'm showing them on screen. So this is another addition to the collection, and I'm sure we'll be seeing this in the first several episodes of the season before he just goes further and further down the road to ascending, I guess you could say. Now up next, I'm going to play a little bit of a voice recording that Joseph Morgan posted to Twitter. It's just another layer to these teases. What I like with what he's doing with these teasers, whether it's the voice notes or like the video at the very beginning, of which we'll talk about in a minute, it's really teeing up, I guess you could say, the conflict that the Church of Blood is going to have with the Titans. So, roll clip.
Hello there. Just another beautiful day on the set of DC Titans. But why does my voice have that certain gravelly resonance to it? Have I been perhaps screaming my head off while I hack one of your beloved characters apart? Well, that's for me to know, and you to find out.
So obviously we don't quite know if he's been literally hacking one of the main cast members apart, but we do most definitely know from Joseph Morgan on Twitter, of which we're going to go through some tweet teasers in a second, that he is going to get quite a few dramatic performances. If you've seen him in that of his previous roles, let's just say Klaus, there's several moments, key moments that fans may remember where he really kind of just belts out and screaming in some kind of dramatic moment. You can bet your ass we're going to get more of that, and who knows, it could very well be in where we have Brother Blood with one of our beloved characters. And also that brings me back to the very beginning of this video with one of the recent teasers that Joseph Morgan posted, and that was about him shooting that day being today mostly trying to kill Nightwing. So I'm guessing, and that's very interesting. I don't want to, like, again, just take this fact for fact, but if any of that is close to being true, it could signify that we're going to get a 1v1 Nightwing versus Brother Blood fight. Now, that shouldn't necessarily be too unexpected. I mean, I would expect maybe a collaborative fight, maybe multiple Titans at some point, but we can't forget that Brenton Thwaites' Nightwing is one of the, if not, you know, he's the leader of the Titans at the end of the day. So a 1v1 fight here between Brother Blood, who could be powered up, souped up at this point. Looks like it could be very well coming our way, and obviously this would be quite at the very back end of the season's episodes. And by that point, most certainly we'll be seeing a whole different side to Sebastian compared to the suit image that we saw just a few seconds ago. All right, so up next, what we're going to do is read out some tweets from his Twitter. He's very active there, so I do recommend following him. They're just nice little tidbit updates that give us some insight into how the filming's going, some nuggets and clues of actual plot and whatnot. So to begin with, we have him saying back in July 28th, just finished an epic day, now we're getting really messy. And tomorrow, oh, tomorrow we're taking it to another level. This is the end game. He's really getting to film at this point at the end of July. I guess the beginning arc of the end of where Sebastian, or should I say Brother Blood, will end up in Season 4's story. Then we get another tweet from a fan saying, have you filmed a scene with every Season 4 character? He says, yes, but not all one-on-one scenes. Some characters I've only worked with in group scenes. So who knows? There were, I believe, behind-the-scenes set photos that we went over a few months ago where we saw like all the Titans there from Superboy, Dick Grayson, we had Raven with white hair, and I believe Jinx was even on the set there. So perhaps maybe there's some characters more than others, obviously, of which he would interact with, maybe like Nightwing or Raven, most certainly, whereas other ones could be in the background who may have only encountered him, as he says, in group scenes. Up next in this tweet on August 1st, he says, after this past week of shooting DC Titans, I'm convinced you guys are going to really appreciate the journey Sebastian goes on. It's absolutely your cup of tea. Dark, damaged, emotional, vulnerable, and vengeful. So very vengeful. And that is just music to my ears. Without repeating myself so much from previous videos, just to kind of long story short it, we do know that Sebastian starts off this guy working at a dead-end job, kind of dreaming of changing the world one day, and he's clearly going to go down a path that is somewhat dark, but perhaps offers to fulfill that dream. Maybe he's approached by Mother Mayhem, and he's inducted into the Church of Blood. It's really anyone's guess with how deeper and deeper you get, how exactly is this Brother Blood and Church of Blood adaptation gonna go, and ultimately the journey of that will be the most intriguing thing. The most important thing and most fascinating thing about a villain is what I've said before, empathizing with where they're coming from. So here, really appreciating the journey that he goes on, all of our cup of tea, especially if you're a fan of Joseph Morgan's work before. Well, this should also sound like music to your ears as well. So up next, we get a question from another fan on Twitter on August 11th saying, are we going to hear some of your famous screams like Klaus did in DC Titans? This is what we were talking about earlier. He says count on it. So that contributed to that gravelly voice that day when he was teasing hacking one of our beloved characters apart. Up next, we get another fan asking on the same day, are you afraid that the public won't understand Sebastian? And he says, you may not agree with him with the choices he makes, but I hope at least you'll understand him. And this, again, goes along that route of what we've talked about before on the channel, that this character is going to be driven to do something, perhaps from a place of where once upon a time he could have maybe taken a whole different path, but at least the choices that he makes, and some of them, again, we won't always agree with. Like Klaus, for example, in the originals, has made very many choices that are very questionable, but you still see the humanity and empathize with the decisions that he's made, despite not always being the right ones. So a similar journey here with whatever propels Sebastian Sanger, such as in this photo, to become this suited version of himself in the Church of Blood, trying to kill Nightwing and everything like that, will most certainly be a journey that is at least most definitely justified to him. In the next tweet, a fan asks, how excited are you to have played this character? And he replies, honestly, I'm having an absolutely brilliant time here. The scenes I've been given to work with are riddled with opportunities. It's just been such an exciting journey to bring to life. Hashtag DC Titans. So again, great to hear that not only is he having a great time shooting the show, the 4th season of Titans, in his job as an actor, but also appreciating it from a story perspective. I'm sure many people will be like, well, of course he's saying that, but I do tend to believe that he genuinely is having a good time. If you've paid attention to the news updates on this channel and all the updates that he's put out, he does seem very excited about this. Now, the next tweet on August 13th is a tweet I really like because it goes back to what we were saying of being a villain, but also having an interesting journey, not just for villain's sake, so to speak. Another fan asks on August 13th, Joseph, what is it like to play a villain like Sebastian? And he says, Sebastian is the hero of his own story. And that's the thing, there's a whole spectrum of villains. Some do just want villainy and cause villainy for the sake of being a villain. There's not always too much bloodlines or complication behind just being the Dark Lord of whatever story you may choose, but some genuinely, and some of the most interesting ones, are doing it from the perspective of that they are the hero. So on Twitter, another fan says, the more I hear about him from you here, the more I think he might just be deeply hurt by the world, and Lonely Life created him that way. Maybe he's not the villain, maybe the society is, we'll see. And he says, now you're getting it. Now this goes back to my early comparisons with Arthur Fleck, if you will, from Joker. I'm not saying it's a copy and paste remotely, it's just, some of the same foundations being laid there a little bit. He probably feels, especially when he's at that dead-end job, wishing maybe he could do more, maybe change the world, that he feels a bit downtrodden, maybe there's something more he could do. We do need a lot more insight into Sebastian and how he views the world and maybe society that could contribute to his journey into Brother Blood. But the fact that he's acknowledging here in this tweet from this fan saying these things, that now you're getting it, we know that those circumstances most certainly contribute to one of his reasons for really propelling himself forward into the Church of Blood and the villainy we'll see him engage in this season. Up next, Joseph Morgan says, on the 15th of August, and in other news, I have now read all of the DC Titans scripts except the one episode I am not in, so I have the entirety of Sebastian's journey for this season in my head. I think this is the most dramatic arc I've ever played. And that is really interesting to hear because Joseph Morgan has played some big roles. I would say Klaus had quite a dramatic arc along the way, but the fact that we hear that Sebastian, at least with this character and role he's playing, I guess from beginning to end, the difference there between Klaus has had a long history of some dark deeds, some trauma, some dramatic moments, of course, a dramatic arc, but to go from maybe one end to another end, like the polar opposite, maybe does come across to him in this role as the most dramatic arc he's played. So that's the way I view that answer, and that is most exciting to hear from me, because I can't wait to see a little newbie Sebastian go to, I guess, Dragon Ball Z crazy mode. Up next, another fan says, for my part, I think that you aren't in the first episode of the season, and he says, but I am. Now, that's probably referencing the other tweet where he says he's read all of the scripts, even the one episode that he's not involved in. So that's not episode 1, because he's clearly introduced into that, and that's just nice to know, because for all we know, they could have just done a Titans episode where they pick up on that, bus where they left the airport at the end of last season, and maybe we didn't get any Brother Blood at all. It could have just been Mother Mayhem. Now, what I would like to see there is whether it's Mother Mayhem approach him already. I think that might be too soon. Who knows really how it's going to go, but it would be cool to get the Titans' perspective of things, whatever they're up to, and they might save it to the final few scenes of the episode, or they might dart it around the episode. It really depends how it's structured, but the perspective of Sebastian, that's important to lay the foundation of, and that is a day in the life of, maybe seeing some of his hardships, what he has to endure, some of his frustrations, the good-hearted nature to him, at least, this ambition he has that starts off as good, but obviously spirals down into some other kind of execution, you could say, of villainy. Maybe they're gonna kind of scatter the scenes throughout the episode. Think kind of Game of Thrones, you might have a scene with Daenerys or something like that, but then it'll flip over to King's Landing with Tyrion or Tywin Lannister and Cersei. Then you might go to the north. It's that kind of thing. It would be really cool if we just get some setup there. I don't really mind how they do it. I haven't seen the episode yet, but I hope at least that they set up a day in the life of. Now, as of August 15th, he says, I still have about a month left on Titans. Up next, in this tweet, he says, and this was on the 25th of August, so jumping forward a little bit, it's exciting at this point in the season because I've shot so many scenes, it brings me great pleasure to think of the journey you have in store. Again, just propelling hype that he clearly is really happy about what he's done with this character, what this season is doing with its arc. I like this question from from this fan on the 25th saying, will there be a pit of blood for Brother Blood? That is the question. He repeats, that is the question. Now, in some of the comics, maybe I'm showing some artwork on screen, it can get pretty messy like that. Quite literally like almost like an ancient history kind of pit or bath of blood. This is one thing I'm very intrigued about with the Titans adaptation. How much are they going to adapt from the darker, messier, gory parts of the Church of Blood? Now, on the 27th of August, he says, I have just 2 weeks left on DC Titans, 2 weeks to change the world, those words again, change the world, and get rid of those costumed menaces once and for all, most probably because they are trying to prevent him and the Church of Blood for whatever the heck they're trying to achieve. And on the 29th of August, Joseph Morgan says, officially the earliest morning I've had on DC Titans. Alarm was set for 4:30 a.m. Early bird catches the self-righteous costumed worms, I guess. And I like that tease because it shows you the perspective that maybe Sebastian has on the Titans trying to stop the Church of Blood's and Brother Blood's operations and plans, if you will. Self-righteous, I guess, meaning the way that he views the Titans' way of changing things themselves is likely this morally superior version to his. But really, again, what propels that little newbie version of Sebastian to this Brother Blood version of Sebastian is his own big change that I guess is self-righteous as well, you could argue. And then the latest tweet as of August 29th with regards to Titans teasers, he says, I got my character journal into another scene. Now, if you're wondering what that is, essentially Joseph Morgan did a little journal for the character of Sebastian, and it's been featured in episodes before this. If I remember, there may have even been a photo teaser of that. And speaking of a photo teaser, a few weeks ago, he did post to his Instagram story a little snippet from the journal, which is really cool. You can only make out so much. Probably a method he does to really just get into the mind of the character. And here it says, cutting the ties that bind. To ascend, I must let go. And everything else is kind of cut off. He says, I thought I loaned or longed, but that's about it. But I like to ascend, I must let go. To ascend into the hierarchy of the Church of Blood, into the Brother Blood position, possibly. So just a little tease there, but cool to know that he got the journal for his character into yet another scene. But that, more or less, I believe, unless I'm forgetting something, ends the Brother Blood Joseph Morgan teasers. So let me know what you thought of everything we discussed with regards to that. But up next, we have some pretty awesome news with regards to Ryan Potter, because it turns out he is co-writing an episode of Titans Season 4. Here you can see the post that they released, story by Jeff Johns and Ryan Potter, script by Jeff Johns, directed by Eric Dean Seaton. I believe he has directed on Superman and Lois before. I believe this was a part of Ryan Potter's post saying, something from the heart, a thank you for all of the years of supporting and loving this character. I hope you enjoy it as much as Jeff and I have creating this story. Now, they also posted a couple of comic book issue covers of the new Teen Titans. Now, I'm not sure if they're adapting these issues or something from them. That's the question. I just remember taking these at the time of the posting, and it just made me think, maybe they wrote a fun story, like a day in the lives, and what a day it is. So a very brief update there, but just thought I'd fill you in on that awesome news. But up next is some quite significant stuff, and I don't think we've had any major teasers of Bludhaven before, because it looks like the Titans or maybe a few characters could be going to Bludhaven or will be going to Bludhaven this season, because we literally have set photos in Bludhaven. Now, these come courtesy of Anita Winserman. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but thank you for letting me use these photos if you happen to be watching. Here we can see in these set photos that it's on the campus, I guess, of Bludhaven University. Now, this is just a shot in the dark, but since we can see on the photos that this is an orientation at the University of Bludhaven, since Jinx is joining this season and is quite young, I wonder if she attends there. I really don't know. Again, just a random shot in the dark theory there, but of course, lend me your theories down in those comments. But on the other side of this discussion with Bludhaven is that, of course, you guessed it, it could be setting up the final kind of location of where Nightwing decides to do his crime-fighting vigilante superhero-suited career, if you will. Now, I do wonder if they could, if, only if, they are doing it for that reason as well, setting up eventually Nightwing's location and base of operations and city to protect. Season 5, if we get it, could be the 5th and final season. Long story short, I think I heard through the grapevine over the past few years that Titans could have possibly been a 5-season plan. Now, this year, you may have heard various reports, of course, that for this season, the 4th seasons of Doom Patrol and Titans, the decision for a renewal will be defined after the premiere of the new season. So essentially, this year for Doom Patrol in its 4th season and Titans in its 4th season, having a little bit more of a microscope under it for its performance, I guess, to kind of be like, okay, you've had 4 years. If we're going to give you a season 5 on HBO Max, we want to see you maybe perform like this, and only then will they make that decision. Not saying it's cancelled. I'm really not saying that at all, unlike some other reports a few weeks back. It's just that maybe they have a little bit more of a magnifying glass, being like, okay, maybe. But if it does get renewed, I'm wondering if they were setting this up going back to Bludhaven for that 5th season to kind of already have the seeds of Bludhaven there for Nightwing. Who knows? Could be completely unrelated. Could be just a nice nod. Maybe they have to go to Bludhaven for a completely different reason. But hey, you never know, so let me know your thoughts on that. Okay, so lastly, for the updates of this video, we have a couple of photo teasers. Now, the first one is of Tim Drake's Robin. Now, I don't really know the story behind this. Some people are saying that maybe Jay Lycargo, I'm sorry, Jay, if you happen to be watching this video, that I'm putting this out here. Hey, it's my job. It's what I'm doing. I have to feed the people. But this has been circulating around, and it appears that if it was an accident, that maybe if he started live streaming on Instagram, who knows? It could have been an intentional tease. I don't know. Who knows what the marketing is up to these days? But essentially, it captured his little Robin mask on his face. Now, that is awesome. As I've said for the longest time, I don't expect Jay Lycargo's Tim Drake to get the Robin suit in the first half of the season. It felt intuitive for me to suggest that it would be in the back half. Now, I assume this is when he's going to get the suit. He could have been wearing it before this, and I could be wrong. I'll hold my hands up if I am wrong. But essentially, this was around the time it wasn't like a long time ago when this first came out. You can see how the mask goes up on his nose there, which is pretty accurate to Tim Drake in the comics. I can't tell if the mask is got a green tinge to it or if it's just the lighting of the video, because sometimes those masks, the black in them, can come off like a different color in the lighting. But who knows? You could have a little bit of a green hue to it. Don't judge it too harshly just based off like a close-up selfie shot or whatever. But up next, that's all there is really to say about that, is a still of Dick and Corey. Again, not too much to say about this one, but it's just nice to see some more episode stills. I believe this is from Nick Copus, or Nick Copus. I butcher names, I'm sorry. But a lot of people are excited for Dick and Corey this season, hoping for some Dickkory content there with regards to a romance. And, you know, I don't see why they would have teased their daughter holding that little balloon last season in the Lazarus Pit, unless they weren't kind of heading that direction, maybe. So there's some Dickkory content for you Dickkory lovers out there. I think that just about concludes today's news roundup video, so I leave the floor open to you. What do you think of everything we covered today? Leave me all of your thoughts and theories down in the comments. Literally anything from the Robin stuff to the Brother Blood stuff to Bludhaven and what could be going on there. If you enjoyed this content, it really helps support my channel. If you like it, comment, share it. It just helps me breach that Titans algorithm and just get more Titans fans on the channel. Of course, double check if you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any crucial update that we're getting in the future. Links to my social media will be down in the description below. Other places to support me, of course, are the join button. There's a super thanks button if you want to go the extra mile. But I think that is just about everything. So I'm going to love you and leave you now, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you members of the Church of Blood or the Titans in the next video. Goodbye.